It's all for you. Yeah, yo. There whenever it matters, and even more when you feel like it doesn't. Protect you so you never feel like you wasn't. Know I'm right alongside you. Either that or I'm behind you, but always got you. End the discussion, nothing means more. First one to offer is shoulders for what you reach for. Thought I saw the eyes of the world until I seen yours. And know that I ain't see a better view yet. I'm with whatever, so don't ever you fret. Know that you covered, not a hurdle or a heartbreak. A change what a partake, cause none of them won't ever get comfortable in your walkway. My job is to aware you, fully loaded, prepare you for all of the above that I'm never letting get near you. But still in all, give you every advantage I found. Couldn't find a better fit for them, along with my crown. And since the baton was passed, I've been down. Cause failing's not an option, and dad is not a noun, not at all.
It's the nature of fire, to burn, baby, burn, so we can quickly turn on all those concerned. That's why they calling it a wildfire. It's hard to escape, have you leaning on a higher power. Them little hitters on the block got firepower. The sound of 6 hours and gunpowder are getting louder, coming out the ambulance, straight into surgery. They say the nature of fire, to clean all impurity. If you messing up the game and you getting out your lane, them hot boys might get you, man. It's simple and it's plain. When they pinched you in your game, you was mentioning my name, but I was in the studio spitting out the flame.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Ishmael from Dad Is Not a Noun. Hope everyone's doing well. What you just heard just now was a fire track by my homie, Bazooka Joe Gotti. Nature of Fire is dope. It's fire. Go support that track. It's dope. It's just blazing. And I'm truly honored to have this brother on. Bazooka Joe Gotti, how you doing, brother?
Hey, what's up, family? Good to see you again, Ish. You know, just chilling, doing our thing, keeping it rocking.
I feel you, man. Talk about that track, Nature of Fire, man.
Oh yeah, that's one off of the album Street Disciple, produced by my man Gennessee, and he also supplied the hook. And I just like the track. It just got an old school feel, but it also got a little bit of a I don't know, just to me, it got a little bit of a Tupac kind of vibe to the beat. And I was just feeling the beat. And, you know, for 4th of July, lately I put it online on a couple of the social media outlets just to let them know, you know, this song kind of goes with the holiday. So please rock me, you know. Nature of Fire. You know, the nature of fire is to clean all impurity. So that was kind of like the inspiration for that song. I heard somebody say that and I was like, wow, that's pretty deep. So that's the gist of that joint.
That's dope, man. Just talk about, you know, the meaning behind street discipline, because there's, you know, different meanings behind that, and people can kind of take it the wrong way. So just talk about that.
Well, you got to have street discipline in life. The album is called Street Disciple, but you know, we use street discipline as our code. You know, don't go against the code of the streets, and especially with the hip hop music, we try to keep it as authentic and as real as we can. And the Street Disciple title and song just came from the idea of where it all began for me and my little conglomerate, my little squad. Like, we all started off in the streets and then learned the game from a lot of the older cats in the streets. And we was doing, you know, buying it for 5, selling it for 10 type of stuff. And then decided that we'd be better off working on utilizing our God-gifted skills, our God-given skill set for writing and rhyming and poetry and making beats and being creative rather than staying out there in the streets. But we learned the game from the OGs, so we're the disciples of them, you know.
And I think that's important too, because again, you know, being a street disciple, you know, you got to have that discipline. You know, you have to have that repetition. You know, it's a code, and I understand the code, but also, you know, there's, you know, that's that discipline behind that, especially in your work too. You know, in your consistency of making good music. You know what I'm saying? Especially as just a freestyle. You know what I mean? So can you like break down the difference between like people get that mixed up when they talk about freestyle. Like freestyle is like off the top of the dome, and then you have cats that just write it, remember it, and then just don't spit it. So can you just break down the difference?
Between writing it and freestyling it.
Yeah, like
Yeah, yeah,
freestyle to me is like you just go on top of the dome.
yeah. When you're coming off the top of the dome, for me, it's a little easier. Some people don't have that skill to improvise and make it up as they go. But me, I love freestyling more than I like spitting writtens. It's easier for me to spit freestyles than have to remember a 16 or a 32 bar verse, you know, that I wrote, because it's a little bit less scripted. It's a little bit more natural for me to be freestyling, and my mind works in a way where I could think of the next rhyme right as it's going. And even if I think I'm not going to be able to come up with one at the last second, right when I need it at the end of that bar, one usually comes, you know. And I just love improvising and freestyling. I love writing rhymes, but the comfort zone is times 10 when I'm just coming off the top. You know, as long as it's a beat that I can get open to, or any beat really. When you just freestyling and there's no beat and no rhythm to work with, it's a little harder because now it's just you and your brain, but you don't have that inspiration of a good groove or a good beat smacking that you can vibe with. So as long as it's a rhythm that I can hear, I'm all day with the freestyle lyrics off the top of the dome. And I mean, we can even make up songs sometimes, you know, as we freestyle, come with hooks and verses and back to the hook, you know, if I can remember what the hook was at the beginning. And then with the written, it's a little more technical, but it's a little more tedious and it's a little more work. And then when you get on stage and you got to remember all them bars, and if people know your song, you don't want to mess up the lyrics. Or once in a while, you can go away from the lyric and come back to it if you're in a live show. People dig that. But yeah, I really like freestyling because it challenges me more and keeps me engaged. With the written, I love writing the rhymes because it's like a challenge to me, like a riddle or a puzzle. And I'm trying to see if I can solve my own puzzle or riddle to this groove and come up with something cool. But when I have to do a show or something and I got to remember them lyrics, it's a little bit harder. Freestyling, you making it up as you go. And I really like that vibe, you know, because if you can do it well, you really get my respect. Like, I don't know if you remember Supernatural.
Yes, yes, I do, man.
Back in the
Talking
day.
about supernatural, my brother.
Yeah.
I went to a couple of years ago. I went to a Rock the Bell private party, and he was one of the cats that jumped on stage and was freestyling, and he was like pointing at items and rapping about it.
Right, right. See,
And then
that's
the
what,
stage, he took my phone,
right,
rap about my phone, and give it back. So
right. Yeah, see, someone like that, I seen him performing in the city where I live in, San Francisco, years ago. And I was like, man, I had to wait around after the show just to give him some props and some love and say, hey, man, I really appreciate what you do. Cause he did that same thing, you know. And to be able to do that unscripted, like once in a while, I'll say to the crowd, if I'm doing a show or I'm at an open mic or whatever it is and I'm freestyle, I say, hey, this is not a cover song. You know, a lot of bands, they do cover songs.
yes,
They'll
yes.
do an old hit, like even like Carlos Santana had a hit, Oye Como Va. That wasn't his song. He did a cover of an old Latin artist who really wrote that song. All these songs, the Drifters got a song, Up on the Roof. They didn't
Yep,
write that. They didn't write
yep,
it. You know,
yep.
this old school fly ass artist and songwriter Carol King, she wrote that. But I'm just finding out stuff like that lately. But I know um, a lot of times artists do cover songs, right? All these bands go around the world doing covers of all the hits of different bands. But me, I'll tell the audience sometimes, like, this is not a cover song. We making up a song as we go at this moment in time. and nothing is planned out or premeditated. So because some people don't grasp what we doing when we freestyling and improvising something like that. Some people are so used to hearing either a written original or a cover song of an old group that I kind of sometimes just in a couple sentences got to explain like listen, this is not a cover song. This ain't planned out. We making it up as we go. So rock with us, you know. So I really love the art of freestyling, you know.
Yeah, and it's the art, man. Not a lot of people can do that. Um, but also, talk about like your experience because you know you were on stage with a lot of heavy hitters like KRS-One, Master Killer, Talib,
Right.
Kweli. What was one of your memorable experience?
Oh man, I really love this time when it's a little city called Santa Rosa, California, about 45 minutes up the freeway from San Francisco. And KRS-One was doing a show up there. And I went up there and I think I was on the guest list from one of the guys that was in the, they used to call it the Temple of Hip Hop. And that was like KRS-One's thing, the Temple of Hip Hop. And one of my boys was in the Temple of Hip Hop and he put me on a list. So I went up there, I got in, and KRS-One called a couple of rappers to the stage towards the end of his show because he likes everybody coming up and getting a chance to bust. And if you ain't got it, he'll let you know. But if you do got it, he'll let you know too. You know, so I got up on stage with KRS-One in Santa Rosa, and I had a CD in my hand, like just for example, you know, just a CD, right? And I had a couple in my hand, and they were my CDs with the artwork, shrink wrapped, and everything. You know, I was gonna sell them or give them out, and so I busted a couple flows, and then he grabbed the CD from me, and he lifted it up in the air in front of about at least 500 people. Right, place was pretty packed, and he was like, "You see this CD right here? This Bazooka Joe Gotti. I want you to go pick up this CD right now. You got to have
Wow.
this. This is a classic." And then he read the title to the audience, and I was just like, "Wow, this brother is really being really cool right now. Like plugging your boy, you know." And then I think he might have threw one out to the crowd or whatever. And then after that show, I was backstage with them brothers, right?
Wow.
And there's a newspaper in Santa Rosa called the Santa Rosa Press Democrat, and they was backstage interviewing KRS-One, and he saw me backstage with them because you know one of my boys was in the Temple of Hip Hop,
Right.
and he was like, "Hey Bazooka man, come in for a second." And I was like, "Oh, what's going on, teacher?" You know, people call KRS-One the teacher. "Hey, what's up, teacher? What's good? What's you?" He said, "Hey, well, they about to take this picture for the newspaper. I want you to get in it with me and hold up your CD like that, you know, all proud and shit, like so they can see the cover." And so we took a picture for the newspaper after the show. And that was so cool. It was funny to me
Wow.
though, because I was like, man, this brother is showing mad love, you know, because I think he remembered me from, or I know he remembered me from a couple other of his shows
Right.
in San Francisco where I opened up for him. And he had one in San Jose where I went out, or a couple in San Jose, which is 45, 50 miles away from San Francisco in the opposite direction of Santa Rosa. Santa Rosa is north, San Jose is south from here.
Okay.
So I remember going to a couple of his shows in San Jose and just kind of like starting to bond with him and the whole crew a little bit, you know. So when we were up in Santa Rosa, he showed me mad love. And you know, I wish I could find that newspaper picture of me with the teacher. That'd be classic, you know. That was a funny
Yo, that
story.
Yo, that's dope, man. And I know you got other stories too. I don't know there was one story you told us, but we can't share it here on Dad is Not a Now. If you
Right,
want to see that story, that dope story he had with Wu, you're gonna have to go to the High Creativity podcast and check that
right.
out. You'll get more in depth in there. But man, that's dope, man. That's dope, man. But talk about talk about what you have learned as a father, as a husband, just a man through the pandemic. I know you were working on the album through the pandemic, but
Right.
what have you learned?
Oh man, that's a good question. Well, I learned that sometimes I can be a little not compassionate enough, towards my kids. I got two kids. I have a daughter and a son, and my daughter's my shining. She been shining lately. She's my bright spot lately. Through the pandemic and everything, she been getting four. She's in high school. She's been getting 4.0 grade point averages and really doing well and excelling and taking advanced placement classes and you know um yeah, I'm gonna keep it real. She been my bright spot, man. Really has, because my son is like the yin and the yang of life. You got to everything balances out. Everything ain't gonna be the bright spot. So she been my bright spot. My son kind of been really something else because San Francisco is 7 square miles with 1 million people in it, and it's easy to get thrown, I wouldn't say off course, but it's easy to get caught up in that life of being the most angry, being the most, you think you macho and all that. Cause I was like that when I was 20, and that's where my son is at. So that's been the test where I realized like my compassion isn't where it should be because we've really been having some trying times between me and my son. And then we got my daughter on the other hand that is just shining bright, illuminating the skies, and giving me something to be proud of and happy about sticking to a relationship for so long and being married and having kids and realizing that everything's how it should be. I'm right where God wants me to be. Everything happens for a reason. I'm gonna keep it 100, man. That's just sometimes I'm too real sometimes, and yeah, me and my son, we ain't talked in a couple months. We ain't talked in a couple months. And I could be the bigger person and say, hey, son, whatever you tripping on, I'm sorry, my bad. But I ain't really got it like that in my heart right now because I'm still a little upset about what happened a couple months ago, and I'm always coming to my daughter's defense and trying to get him to back up off of her. You know what I mean? 'Cause sometimes I hear him talking bad to her and stuff. And I'm sure he wouldn't like me sharing about this kind of thing, but we just keeping it 100 about life, and yeah, my daughter just got accepted to UC Berkeley,
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
that's a big time college,
Right,
and
definitely.
I'm just gonna do this little plug real quick.
Go ahead, man. That's dope. Yes, yes.
Go Bears, go Bears. I never thought I'd be pumping up UC Berkeley, but shoot, if my daughter going there, shoot, I would pump up Harvard if she was going there.
That's right.
So she did all her work and dedicated herself to getting it done in school and her education. Because I told her as a dad a long time ago, I don't know if she remembers the conversation, but I told her what someone told me. I said, hey, the police, the powers that be, the government, whoever can strip you of everything you own. They can take your shoes off your feet. They can lock you up in shackles and throw you in jail for as many years as they say. But no one can take your education from
That's
you. No
right.
one can take your knowledge and your wisdom that you've put in your mind and learned over the years away from you. That's yours for life. And I don't know if she remembers the conversation. She might, but she's walking that walk. So she got accepted to one of the hardest colleges, at least in California, to get into, UC Berkeley, right? And that was one of her dreams.
Yeah.
And that made me really proud. We threw a party for um I say about 3 weeks ago,
Right.
just to congratulate her on graduating high school and getting accepted into University of California, Berkeley. And the party was off the hook. I mean,
What?
for real. Like I was worried about how the party was gonna be.
Right.
Was it gonna be boring? Was I gonna have to schmooze with all these people because it's kind of boring? And this, I didn't have to do that much. I got on the mic and said a little something about my daughter. She came out, started dancing with everybody. We had like Mexican and Arabic culture popping off to the fullest, to where the music was banging, everybody's dancing. I'm talking about, you know, clapping to the rhythm. Everybody, man, it was a blast.
Right,
We had great food. Um, Towards the end, the lady who had the only one with the right auxiliary cord for us to play the music, she
right.
had to leave. She had to leave. So my
What?
homie Alejandro, he's a Guatemalan brother, but he's been living in San Francisco for at least about 20 years.
Okay.
And he's a classical guitar player, classically trained, right?
Right,
And so when the lady left, who had the only right chord for us to play the music, when she left, I said, "Hey, Alejandro, grab your guitar." And he grabbed his guitar and his amp, plugged in. He has a mic, gave me the mic. Next thing you know, me and him was doing a show, which I told my daughter I wasn't going to do,
right,
because when girls are, or when kids are 17, 18, they don't want their dad and
right,
mom to embarrass them and all that stuff. So I said, "Hey, dads are made to embarrass their daughters. If you don't want to be around for this, I understand." There was about 20 people left at the party because it was towards the end, but the lady with the music had to leave, and me and my boy plugged in. He started playing his acoustic guitar through his amp, through a speaker, and gave me the mic. I started doing, man, we did like a 20, 30-minute show to end the night. So
wow,
the party was just cracking the whole time. I had a blast. The thing is, to balance it in, or to make it make sense to what we were talking about a second ago, was the photographer we had there was like, "You, your wife, and your daughter are right here, and we're about to take a picture of you. Let me go get your son." So
right,
she went to the other side of the party to get my son. This isn't at the end. This is in the middle of it when everything's cracking and stuff. And
right.
and he said he didn't want to be in the picture, you know. So
Wow,
I'm thinking, okay, we ain't talked in a month.
right,
The kid showed his immaturity to telling my daughter to
right,
shut the bleep up. And I
right,
tried not to get involved in that, because I was thinking
right,
maybe my daughter can work it out with him when it happened.
right,
So I
right,
backed off. I wanted to say something. He
right,
told her to shut the F up, and I didn't say nothing, because I'm thinking this might
right,
be a learning experience for my daughter on how to work things out with somebody that's being
right,
rude to her. And
right,
you know, I didn't say nothing. And
right,
then my lady said something to him about the shoes he had on, and he was getting ready to start with her
right,
on a different tip, not even the thing with my daughter. Just a minute or two later, he
right.
was like, "I don't know if we can swear on this show or what."
No, we can swear. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead, man. Let it out.
He was like fucking and then he saw me at the top of the stairs at the house, but he was like fucking blah blah, and then he stopped himself, and this was to my wife, and
Wow.
I'm like, damn, this brother just told my daughter to shut the fuck up.
Right,
Now he about to tell my wife like fucking this and that, and I'm like, dude, bring it down.
right,
I didn't get super mad, but I was concerned,
right,
getting a little nervous now. Like, change the vibe, man. We was having a great time before you got up in here.
right,
Just and I said, be nice. I didn't
right,
say I didn't say quit being an asshole. I
right,
said I just said be nice and relax. And dude looked at me and he said, "You relax." He started talking back to me, and I was like, "Oh man, wow." And so me and him ended up getting into argument, and eventually he went and punched a couple holes in the door to his room, which he never done that before. And, and I'm expecting, I was like, "Hey man, you got to go take a walk or something, or
right,
make a phone call or do something and get picked up by somebody or something," because his car was broke down at the time too. It
right,
was at my mechanic's shop, and that was another issue that he was bringing up. Like, well, your mechanic had my car for all this time, and the
right,
reason I told Maya to shut the fuck up was because I borrowed her car and she asked me about the gas and this and that, and he tried to bring it all
right,
back to my boy having his car for too long, working on it. And I said, "Hey man, I can bring the car back up here, let you start over with the whole deal, and I'll be out of that whole mix, because I really didn't want nothing to do with your car. It's your
right,
responsibility." And that's when he went and punched the holes in the door.
right,
And I'm like, man, I don't know if you on drugs or alcohol, but you got to go take a walk, man. And
right.
we haven't talked since then. That was like 7, 8 weeks ago. That was in May. And
Wow.
his birthday done came and went since then. Father's Day done came and went since then. Um, um, the party for my daughter for graduation came and went since then, and so we
Right.
had to talk, and we got into it that day. And
Right.
then when he didn't want to get in that picture at the party, I'm like, okay, this dude is kind of doubling down on his anger
Right.
and really just like sticking to his whatever animosity or whatever his attitude problem is with me. And it's funny though, as a dad, everybody forgives him. My
Right.
wife, of course, my sister, my daughter. But now I'm left holding the bag with having issues with
Right.
him and me not talking and him mad at me and not respecting me and me kind of being mad at him back for being immature towards me
Right.
and on Father's Day not saying a word to me, you know, and not wanting to be in that picture at the party and just different little things like that make me realize like everybody forgave this brother.
Right.
I didn't forgive him.
Right.
I was expecting an apology at least to the family.
Right.
Maybe not directly to me, but apologize to somebody for your actions, you know. See, but what they do is I'm talking as a father, frustrated father now,
Right.
not the artist, you know. What they do is he punched the holes in the door. My wife bought a new door and had a carpenter come put in a new door. Built shoe racks in his closet for his shoe collection
Right.
and built a new closet on the other side of the room.
Right.
To me, I said to my wife, to me, just my opinion,
Right.
you telling him he could punch holes in the doors
Right.
and have a come up behind that. He can punch holes in the doors and come out of that situation with a better situation than he started with.
Right.
What is that teaching somebody? So me and my wife was like, we wasn't really vibing for a couple weeks behind that,
Right.
you know. And I'm just like, if the brother haven't taken no accountability for punching them holes in the door and telling my daughter shut the f up and almost telling you something with the f word in it and getting in my face. No apology to nobody, but you gonna replace the door, build shoe shelves, and then build an extra closet on the other side of the room. That's
Right.
just telling him that he can do, I wouldn't say bad, but he can do bad
Right.
and get rewarded for that. And that's not the way I'm trying to bring somebody up
Right.
because as a father, tomorrow ain't promised, man. We be gone tomorrow, and I want to be able to know that this young man will be able to fend for himself
Right.
and deal with different situations that come his way, the right way. Like, sometimes mamas, no offense to the mamas, I love the mamas, but sometimes the mamas will that motherly instinct kicks in where they got to try to do everything for the
Right.
kids,
Yeah.
and I get that, but sometimes the men see it like they have to be able to work things out on their own at some point in life because the mamas and the daddies ain't always going to be around because the life cycle tells us that there will be a bunch of years
Yeah.
where we gone
Yeah.
in heaven or wherever you think we go when we pass away, and they going to have to figure things out. So that's where I've been at lately, just to keep it 100. My
Right.
daughter been the shining spot. We
Right.
throw parties for her. We get ready in a month and a half to take her stuff with her, like they do in the movies, and drive to the university and move her stuff. And she going to live in the dorms. So it's a
Right.
lot of changes going on. And my son, he kind of, I wouldn't say he thugging it out. He ain't thugging it out, but his mentality is a little bit more street and kind of got caught up in the new era of hip hop.
Mm.
He listened to a lot of that Chicago trap music
Mm.
and all the entertainment that he watches.
Right.
It's all kind of like, I want to say a demonic frequency, but I don't want to go so deep. But you know what I mean by that, right?
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. I feel you on that. I feel you.
Yeah. Yeah, the frequency of a lot of this entertainment, a lot of new music that these youngsters are getting, it's the frequency is a little bit negative I feel that somebody is making some money off these kids that's rapping nowadays
Right.
because they might be the ones putting them out. They might be signed to a label. So somebody's making money, right? But then they getting a 2-for-1. They making money and they also getting these kids incarcerated or killed. So if it's some kind of, I'm not into conspiracy theories too much, but if it's some people that already don't like minorities, maybe, I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm open minded. I'm
No.
open minded. If someone if someone went the other way, I would be listening to them too. But I just feel like with a lot of this new music, especially the Chicago trap scene, um, there could be somebody making money off them who doesn't mind pushing that music and advertising and promoting it because not only do I make money off these young blacks and brown people, but I also get to push an agenda of them killing each other and going to jail. And, I could be wrong. I'll admit that. But that could be taking place. I don't know for sure. And like I said, if anybody had an argument the other way, I would be open minded and probably sway a little bit, because I'm just conversating and chopping it up. I don't have any facts behind this, but I know the
Right.
frequency of this new music that I'm hearing. Not everybody, but a lot of the cats, that street cats that just decide I'm gonna do a song. And next thing you know, they song got millions of views on YouTube and
Yeah.
Spotify and spins and stuff. And now they popular and famous. Like for example, do you remember the brother got killed named King Von?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Okay, so he got killed. There was another Chicago rapper like a couple of weeks before him that had a song out about all the people in Chicago, the young new rap generation that had been killed. And rumor was that he even was the one that killed a couple of them. And
That's
he
crazy.
got shot in midday. I forget his name. It was some letters. His name was like something Duck.
Right.
It wasn't RBG Duck, but it was something like that. It had some letters and Duck or something. But he was a gangster too. So it's kind of like the whole music scene. It's probably been like that forever, but it's been getting infiltrated with other cats that's more gangster and street and dope dealing and killing. But then they want to try. They want to try they luck at rapping a little bit, and then somehow it pops. And you see like a lot of these people, they're not going to have longevity. They're not around because some of the stuff that they're promoting, like in the Bible, it says, your boy's starting to quote the Bible, you
Go
know,
for it, brother.
you speak things into existence.
Yeah.
But it's not just the Bible, but many different beliefs and people and spiritual and philosophical people believe that you speak things into existence. When you speak things out to the universe, it's out there. So when you speak death, that can come back to you. So between all the music my kid been listening to, my son, and like I said, being in a 7 square mile city with 1 million people and a lot of drugs and homelessness and different things, the gentrification and everything going on, you could easily get off your pivot, off your goals, and just get caught up in being popular. They call it excuse me.
Brother.
They call it pop culture for a reason.
Yeah.
And certain age, we want to be popular.
Yeah.
You and I are a little older. We probably already gone through and finished up our wanting to be popular years. But my son at 20 years old, that's where he's at. He want to be popular. He want everybody to like him, or maybe not everybody to like him, but he want to be respected. And there's a lot of animosity and anger in my son. But
Yeah.
being a father, I should be able to sit down and have a talk with them, but the time is just not right. So over this last year, I've learned that my compassion towards him is not where it should be because my anger is still there from the rawness of our interaction 7 weeks ago and a couple of things since then. And maybe I'm letting my pride get in the way. And pride's not a good thing. We always talk about Latino pride, Hawaiian pride,
Yeah.
this pride, that pride, and that's cool to an extent. But sometimes your pride will get in the way because you don't want to swallow it, and move on. And what I used to teach my kids, and what I really truly think is the truth is, real men know how to say, I'm sorry, I
Right.
apologize for whatever it was that was my part in that situation. I hope you forgive me.
Right.
Real men don't always have to like punch somebody or kick a hole in the door, which we've all probably done. But real men don't have to get violent. Real men don't have to resort to violence and physical. It can be from the mental plane, the spiritual plane, to where you say, listen,
Right.
I am so sorry, man. It's not like not manly to say sorry.
No, I agree. It's okay to say sorry, you know what I mean? But do you feel like a part of you feel kind of eerie where he's going to similar to like you growing up, like just like that journey in a way? Do you kind of fear that? And so that's why you're kind of frustrated a little bit with
Right,
him because you
right,
see what he's doing. You've been through it already. And you
right,
just trying to give him warning signs. So you want to talk about that?
right. That's like the street disciple thing. That last album I dropped. You're gonna be a street disciple. That means you gotta listen to the older cats and learn from them. Like all the disciples, Paul and all the guys that was around Jesus, they was the disciples because they listened to what he had to say and they believed in something greater than themselves and a higher power. And like it don't have to be so religious. I keep touching on that a little bit, but
Right,
I'm just making like a metaphor or analogy about the thing. But
right,
when you're in the streets, listen to the older OGs that's in the street so you cannot have the same downfalls that they had. When people get out of jail, I swear to God, a lot of the older cats I hear get out of jail, they always say, youngster, don't do what I did.
right,
It's not a good place to be. I didn't have fun up in there. It wasn't just a cakewalk. And uh, don't do what I did. And that's frustrating to me because I tried to tell this dude um, not to be like me and not to go through the same issues and problems I had. But I see his anger is the same kind of anger that I had when I was 20. I thought I was the most angry dude on the block. I thought no one else was as angry about life as I was and frustrated and could fight like me or whatever it was, just some kind of ego attitude thing. Um, but yeah, it's frustrating to be a parent. But what we got to realize is that everything is not always going to be um, a bowl of cherries or whatever you want to call it. Everything ain't always gonna be sweet and beautiful and lovely. Although a lot of times it is. Having a family and stuff like that is in my opinion the right thing to do because the more families there are, the more mother, father, son, and daughter units there are in the world. I feel like people get a sense of belonging, a sense of um, caution, a sense of I don't want to go too crazy and mess up what I have. I don't want to get into a bunch of conflicts out in the streets because I have this family to live for, so to speak. I got two kids. I can't be out there wilding no more. I can't be, I got a wife now. I got to settle down a little bit. And I think that's good for society in general. The more families there are, the less people is out in the streets wilding because once you have a family, and I'm just talking about the small unit,
right,
wife, son, daughter,
right,
or a wife and a kid. It gives you a sense of purpose and a sense of, okay, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm on this planet. This is why I was born. Okay, this is my meaning in life, or whatever it is, because people search for that a lot. But it reminds us like, okay, I gotta calm down a little bit. I can't be out there wilding so much because I have something to live for now. And I think that's good for a society in general. The more people that have that kind of feeling, the less violence, the less um, negative interactions, the less frustration, the less fighting and arguing and stuff that goes on when you're out and about in your daily life happens. So ain't nothing wrong with having a family. I think it's a beautiful thing and a gift from God, because not everybody gets to experience that. And my daughter, I'm so proud of her. My son, we got work to do, and I don't know if I have the niceness in me lately just to sit down and rap with them like I like I would tell someone else to do.
Right.
So being a father is a tricky situation, especially when I came to my daughter and my wife's aid, I thought, by telling them to calm it down. And then he
Right.
got in my face, and now they both forgive him,
Right.
but I don't. And it wasn't even my deal to begin with, as far as the animosity and the arguing and the you know. So it's kind of a trip being a father. Sometimes you take the weight for others in the family, and then you get caught. You get stuck with the bag.
Yeah, man, it's a no-win situation, but at the same time, sometimes I feel I'm not a father, but sometimes by talking to fathers that go through the same situation like yourself, is that sometimes you're just gonna have to let that kid touch the stove. When you
Right,
tell the kid, don't touch that stove, it's hot.
right,
Fortunately, you're gonna have to let them touch that stove and let them feel it for themselves.
right,
Because you can protect them all you want, but when they get a certain age, there's so much you can do. 'Cause when they leave that home, you can't really protect them. You can just give them as much information and guidance as much as you can, but when they leave that nest, you hopefully everything you installed in them will put them in a better position.
right. I agree. I agree. That's what we're striving to do.
And I hear the frustration in your voice, because I know you've done your best. And part of you feel like it's not enough, because it's repeating itself over and over and over again, and it gets to a point where you're like, you just want to just give up, but you can't. You know what I mean? Because
Right,
at the end of the day, that's your son, and
right.
you can't give up on your son.
Yeah, that's the feeling. That is the feeling. Sometimes you just want to throw your hands up.
But you can't. But yeah, just talk about how you feel like how you and your son are kind of similar. Cause you talked about off the high creativity podcast, like the struggles you were dealing with. So can you kind of touch on that a little bit if you want to?
Well, shoot, his struggles ain't so much like mine. Besides, like being young and angry, growing up in a city that moves pretty fast. See, people got to understand about San Francisco. I'll break it down like this. People hear about San Francisco. What's the first thing they think of, or at least they used to? It would be um, gays, or it would be weirdos, or it would be hippies, or strange trips, weirdness, drugs, whatever, acid, who knows? But to understand San Francisco, you got to go back to the beginning.
Right.
And the beginning is, say, like 1850 or something like that.
Right.
The people that came here were desperate, had nothing, and they heard that there was gold in these hills. And that's the truth. So we talking about dudes moving here from all over the country with pickaxes and with ice picks and going up into the mountains with their boots and they, you know, whatever, and swinging these pickaxes into pieces of hard ass rock, hoping that they can get some gold out of it.
Right.
I mean, this is similar to like people working on the chain gang in jail, breaking rocks. So you up there breaking rocks at your own free will, trying to find gold. Some of them are in the rivers, trying to find gold that way. So these is like kind of like rough people. So you get some gold. Now you got to protect that gold from the criminals and thieves that's up there in the mountains that want to take it from you. It's another reason you got to be kind of rough and on your toes. Then you come back to San Francisco with that gold you just got out the mountains, and you turn it in for some money wherever you go. I don't know if it was the banks or whatever, but you turn it in, and now you got cash. And what's on every block? And I'm talking about 170 years ago. What's on the blocks of San Francisco?
Right.
Whorehouses, brothels, where you can spend that money you just got from finding that gold on some women because you ain't been around women in a while.
Right.
Brothels. What's down the street from the brothels? Bars. What's down
Right.
the street from the bar? Liquor stores. All this stuff that was already, we are not saints. You know what I'm saying? So it's already from the beginning. I'm talking about the late 1800s.
Right.
It was already debauchery.
Right.
People stealing from each other because some cats just came down off the mountain with thousands of dollars worth of gold.
Right.
Everybody's broke. Everybody's moving here from all over because they don't have much. That progresses to the 1900s and the recession, like most of the country went through, and then all this stuff, and then you got San Francisco being the capital for marijuana and the service industry, and it's all waiters and bartenders and people opening doors for people that have more money at the condominiums and the sky rises and stuff. And it's just, I'm telling you, it's a blue collar town. Boxers, construction workers, carpenters, people that's working hard. It's not all office workers. This was a blue collar town. I'm talking about criminals,
Right.
drug dealing, the whole hippie movement, protesting wars and stuff, the Black Panthers. So the whole history of this area is not really soft.
Right.
Like when you see the movies and stuff and they say San Francisco, people think a couple different stereotypes, and it ain't really how it is.
Right.
It's a lot of people will tell you, and it's nothing to be proud of, but it's a lot of street shit that goes on in the Bay Area.
Right.
And I'm sure it's everywhere. I know it is. There's a lot of places in the country that I'm just realizing that have it like that. But it's a lot of pimps, pimping and hoeing and all kind of shit going on in the Bay Area that is known for. And hustles. You got to stay on your toes. So with that being said, this 20-year-old young man that is my son, he has to deal with all of that now.
Right.
I'm twice his age, so I already been through that phase where I had to wiggle my way through all the little obstacles and figure out what works and what doesn't. But now that's where he's at, and he's just starting that wiggle to figure out how to get through this thing called life in a somewhat a big city. San Francisco's a big city compared to some, not compared to LA and New York and Chicago, but those are humongous cities,
Right.
But it's a big city considering there's 1 million people within 7 square miles. And over the years, the gentrification has kicked in where a lot of the people with culture and soul had to move away. A lot of the blacks, browns, and German, French, whatever ethnicity white cats are that didn't have as much prosperity or money, all had to bounce up out of here because corporate America started to take this town over. All the Twitters and the Facebooks and the Instagrams and all that is here. All the online companies are here. It's part of Silicon Valley now, and things have changed. And the culture is not what it was when I was growing up. And I know he has to deal with both sides now. The criminal aspect. There's homeless everywhere, people on drugs everywhere. He's got to deal with all the hard people I mentioned that came up through generations of being kind of hard people and blue collar workers and crime and everything else that the big cities have to offer. He got to work his way through that, but he also has to work his way through who am I?
Yeah.
what's my culture? How do I fit into this place? Because he's mixed blood. He's part Arabic, part Mexican, and he he sees the gentrification just from when he was a kid to now. You know, and all the corporate takeover that's been going on. And I'm not trying to be political, and I'm not trying to be um, racial or none of that stuff really, or religious, but it's just that in a lot of the cities from Brooklyn on the East Coast to San Francisco on the West Coast, this has been happening where a lot of the natives and the people that were born here got to get up and pack their bags and move. They may not want to because they love this place and all their memories are here, but they got to get up. You don't have to go home, but you got to get the fuck up out of here.
Yeah.
That's saying because it's very expensive now to be able to live in places like Brooklyn or San Francisco or let's say probably even Honolulu, Hawaii, on the on the island of Oahu,
Yeah.
and Manhattan and um, probably most of LA. It's expensive. I'm sure you can find some things, but you got to move out of the big cities because corporate America has taken over. People from all over the world have moved here. People from different states have moved here or there, and the rents are going up, and everything's getting too expensive for the regular dude that used to hold the culture down, that used to be like the native dude that could tell you what this city was like for the last 50 years. He's gone now, so he can't share that with nobody. And now there's a new culture starting to be bred in these cities that's not the original people.
Right.
It's the culture of the transplants. It's the culture of the people that move to these cities now. And it is what it is, and it's still America, and it's still cool, but it's not what some of us are used to or really comfortable with. When I was growing up, this place was a cultural melting pot.
Right.
Man, we would have 10 different ethnicities or nationalities and religions on the same block living next to each other, and it wasn't really an issue. It wasn't really too much of a big deal. We accepted each other for our similarities and
Mm.
our differences. And so being 20 years old coming up in the city nowadays, I know there's a lot on your plate trying to figure things out. But that's the thing, like you said about sometimes you got to put your hand on the pot and burn yourself.
Yeah.
He's got to figure out the mathematics. He's got to figure out the do's and don'ts
Yeah.
because there comes a point where some of these youngsters, not all of them, some of these young people don't listen to the OGs, and they
Yeah.
don't listen to the elders of the family. When I was coming up, I tried to listen to my elders because I knew they meant well, and they had my best interests at hand. So, you know, I think about moving all the time. I never thought I would move away from this town, but it's expensive nowadays, and there's so many transplants. You go down the street and you look at the cars, and like more than I say, at least 50 to 60% of the cars got out of state license plates,
Right.
Indiana and Arizona and all these different places. And back in the day, it wouldn't be like that. Back in the day, every license plate would say California on it. But people are moving and migrating and going back and forth trying to find their careers and make money. And if they find an area like the Bay Area where there is some money to be made, if you know computers, if you know how to horticulture, because so many people grow weed and shit out here, or opening cannabis clubs, because we were the first state to first city really to open up the weed game
Yep.
to a medical legal means. And now there's like 30 states that are legal with the weed and shit. So it's like a big part of our economy has always been marijuana.
Right.
You grow it in the hills, come to the cities and slang it out.
Right.
Then the indoor thing took over. Now cannabis clubs, and now it's just flying off the shelves. I'm not saying I'm really a big part of that. Um, that lifestyle, because like I shared with you before in that other interview with our boy Juju, I had my own problems with drugs and alcohol. And that's one thing that I'm hoping that my son can avoid. And he's been doing a pretty good job of it. I know he smoked a couple times and got drunk a couple times, but me, it was like an 18-year long thing, and it just ended um, pretty with paranoia and not trusting people, and just I had to get up off of all that stuff. I had to let the alcohol, the weed, the pills, the coke, all that shit I was fucking with. I had to let it go, and that's not the easiest thing to do, but it can be done. You know, I have a lot of friends that are in recovery, and I don't wish that on nobody. When I was coming up, yeah, it was cool to make a few dollars, buy it for 5 and sell it for 10. That was my motto. But once it gets a grip on you, you realize like, wow, I kind of been pushing poison to the people. And so where I'm at now is on June 9th, I celebrated 2 years of sobriety. No alcohol, no weed, no drugs, and it feels good. It really does. It feels good to know that back in the day when I would want to drink some Hennessy, nowadays, if something bothers me, I can just, and I'm not trying to be a preacher, but I can
No,
just say,
preach, bro.
but I can say,
Preach.
I can say a quick prayer to my higher power,
Right.
and I can pretty much get the same release or relief that I used to get from Hennessy and smoking weed and pills and all that other shit. I can get that same relief just from saying a 3-minute prayer. But I didn't know that. And sometimes even now I forget that I have that in my trick bag, in my back pocket. I was driving through town about 3 weeks ago, and I was like, something hit me. It was like something didn't feel right, like a
Right.
paranoia or something. I was just wasn't feeling right. And I'm driving, and I'm like, what am I worried about? There's no threat by me right now. Why do you not feel comfortable? And
Yeah.
I just said a prayer. And I said that prayer for about three minutes, and that thing released off of me. Whatever that feeling was that I had of uncomfort and fear and anxiety, whatever, it lifted off of me. So I got to remind myself, like, it ain't just drugs and alcohol that can calm you down or relieve your tension or your anxiety, fear, whatever might have a grip on you for the moment. But there's a spiritual side to us, to where if you believe in a higher power, you can zone in and tap into that higher power just for a couple minutes and give that higher power your attention, and that problem or whatever was bothering you can be taken away from you. And that's what happened to me that day. I was driving. I said a quick prayer. I was like, um, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive others who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. And then I said, thy will be done, not mine. Thy will be done, Lord. And I repeated that like 2, 3, 4 times. And then that whole thing, that only took about 2 minutes. And that whole thing of not feeling right was gone. And I was back centered and feeling
Right.
safe and sound and cool and not worried about nothing. I don't even know what it was that triggered that, but I know it only took a 2-minute prayer to my higher power to relieve me of that. And when I say higher power, someone's higher power could be whatever they want it to be. It don't have to
That's
be
right.
Jesus. It don't have to be Buddha. It don't have to be this, that, or the other. Where I've been lately, some people say God is the gift of desperation. You know,
Yeah.
you get desperate for a higher power and you find one, but it doesn't have to be the normal things that you hear religiously, because the
Right.
spiritual game is not the religious game. It's different.
Right.
The spiritual game is that you're in tune with who you are, you're in tune with what you want out of life, you're in tune with something greater than yourself controlling everything going on. So, and if you believe that there's something greater than yourself controlling this, game of life. That takes a lot of the weight off of you,
Yeah.
off of your shoulders. You're not bearing the weight of the world anymore because you realize my higher power got this.
Yeah.
God got this. Whatever you believe your higher power in, it don't even have to be God. It could be whatever somebody wants, as
Yeah.
long as you have a higher power. Because you have the reason I think you need a higher power is to get that bag off your back.
Yeah.
Leave it, let somebody else take the weight of the world, because that will weigh you down.
Definitely.
You
And
weigh you down.
yeah, man. And it's a beautiful thing, man. It's from redemption to street disciple. You know what I mean?
Right, right,
Like
right.
now, I love what you're doing now, the work you're doing. Can you talk about that?
Well, shoot, once in a while I speak at meetings and go to Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous, and I speak to the people that are in those rooms. And on Monday, not this Monday because it was a holiday, but last Monday I spoke at a Narcotics Anonymous meeting for about 45 minutes to a group of people that were seeking to relieve themselves of their problem of drug addiction. And that felt really good to me to be able to share my experience, my strength, and my hope with these other brothers and sisters that have an addiction or a similar story to mine. So sometimes I'll go to these meetings and I'll be asked, because I've been asked to come and share my story of wanting to get clean and wanting to have a sober life and a clarity in my mind. Because when you high and drunk, and I'm not knocking it, some people can do it for their whole life. Some people can be high and on drugs and drink alcohol their whole life,
Right.
and it doesn't affect them in the way it might have affected me or others. Because some people have an allergy to these things, but not everybody does. So I'm not knocking it. Some people, it's part of their lifestyle and it's cool. It doesn't hold them back. But for some of us, it does. And those are the ones that I reach out and talk to at these meetings because they wouldn't be at these meetings unless they were trying to get clean or they were court ordered because they got in a bunch of trouble or something. But most people want to change because they know that they've done some bad things when they was drunk and high, or they know they become very selfish and antagonistic or something to where they're not seeing the bigger picture that we all in this together. They thinking like the rebel, just it's just me against the world, like some Tupac shit or something, me against the world. And I used to be like that, and that's kind of how I feel like my son might be right now. So I can only pray for him, and I have, and all my brothers and sisters out there dealing with addiction. I can only pray for them and continue to speak at these meetings. And when I speak at these meetings, dog, I pray before I go in. I say, Lord, give me the right words. Please give me the right words to say so that God guide my thoughts and guide my words. So at least one person in this meeting can be motivated and inspired and know that they can change and have a good life and not have to be confined or held down by addiction, whether it be alcohol or drugs. And usually there's at least one person at the end of that meeting that says, hey man, I really identify with your story and I thank you. And I know if you can do it, I can do it. And that's all I want to get out there to people is shoot. If I can leave drugs and alcohol alone, you can too. That's living proof. Just, I look at others that got many years of sobriety, and then I got a couple years of sobriety. And if I can get a couple years, I know the next person that hears my story can. And I really do feel, even though I love drugs and alcohol, right? But I really do feel that the less people out there is on drugs and alcohol, and the more people start families, our society will last longer. And I'm just looking at the big picture, like, hundreds of years and stuff.
I
When
agree, man.
we're not even around,
Right.
you know.
No, I totally agree, man. I totally agree with that. And like having this conversation with you just opened my mind to see the bigger picture and that, people can change.
Right.
I'm a strong believer of second chances. But before we end the show, man, if you had a chance to have a one-on-one with your kid, or let's say your son is watching it, what do you want to tell him?
Oh man, that's a deep one because the emotion is still raw to where I feel somewhat disrespected, and I would tell him, hey, I apologize for whatever I did to rub you the wrong way, and I just want you to know that you are loved and cared for, and I really want you to have a great future and a long life, and I want you to understand that besides me saying I'm sorry, I want you to know that women are not put on earth for our usage. Women are not put on earth just to entertain and accommodate whatever it is we want. So when you see your mom and your sister and the girls that you dating and you never spoke about having a family or ever having kids to me before, as a matter of fact, you probably said to me one time you never want to have kids. And I understand, but you got to realize these women are not toys for us. They're not objects. They are human beings just like us who deserve the ultimate respect and honesty and righteousness. And that would probably be what I would want him to know. Like respect the ladies, don't see them as, objects. Don't objectify them. Don't see them just as things for our pleasure. Get me this, bring me that. Let's go make love, whatever it is, sex and all that other stuff, because that's not what women are. These
Right.
are our sisters and our mothers, and our daughters. And I think it's important that you know that. And I apologize for not sitting down with you sooner to express my my apologies or how sorry I am that that event happened almost 2 months ago in our home, But I do expect you to pay for that door, God damn it.
And on that note, King, thank you for coming on the show and just being transparent. I know it's difficult for you to let
Right,
it out, especially being that it's fresh and that happened like a couple of months ago. So
right.
it's still there. So I appreciate you, man.
Right on, man. I appreciate you.
Anytime you want to come on, you're always welcome on, especially if you new joins anything or you just want to chat. You're here.
Right on.
Man, for real, man. I appreciate you, man. And we're gonna end this episode with his banger, The Nature of Fire, and we out. Peace.
One love, y'all.
Doubters and haters can't tell where I'm headed. See, only God knows where I be in the ending. It's the nature of fire. To burn, baby, burn. To burn, baby, burn. Burn, baby, burn. It's the nature of fire. To burn, baby, burn. To burn, baby, burn. Burn, baby, burn. It's the nature of fire. To burn, baby, burn. To burn, baby, burn. Burn, baby, burn. It's the nature of fire. To burn, baby, burn.